So I must apologize. The Kinnos, I asked Mechila, can I scare people away? The first one I tend to say a lot more than every other one, just because to put the context of the Kinnos and the Yom. So I'm not going to speak as much in every other Kina as I do for this one. We're going to be doing, Rabbi Young Grace has the list, the same Kinnos I explain every year, and there's a list here, so we'll be doing a couple, and then we'll be doing a bunch of Kinnos, and then I'll be stopping. And then anyone else who wants to say anything is absolutely welcome as well to speak. I want to read something I wrote a couple of weeks ago, and then I'm going to explain some stuff that I was researching. Most of what I say that's any good is from the Rav Rabbi Soloveitchik. Anything that's not is probably from me. The Jewish experience has always been one. There's a certain game out. I'm not going to say the name in the shul. But the Jewish experience has always been one of augmented reality. How else can we explain the fact that we're all sitting here right now on the floor on Tisha B'Av, fasting and crying over a mikdash that was destroyed almost 2,000 years ago, and the first mikdash that was destroyed over 3,000 years ago, or something around that. We don't merely commemorate the past, we re-experience the events as they're occurring right now. When we fast and we mourn and we began the 3 weeks, we're actually transforming the reality in front of us. Everyone else is enjoying a wonderful, what seems to be, really hot summer day. But we know there's something more to this day, that there's something throughout history. It's a day of tragedy, not just for the past, but really for right now as well. So, and we know just one idea about that. The Gemara says about Pesach, the Chayev Adam Lira and Rambam, Chayev Adam Lira Tetatzma Kilu Yata Atam Mitzrayim. We're obligated to look at ourselves as if we're leaving right now, or maybe Laharo Tetatzmo, to see ourselves as if we're leaving right now from Mitzrayim. Similarly, we say, the Gemara in Tanya says, Kol Mis'avo Yushalayim Zocha V'roa B'simchasa, She'eno Mis'avo Yushalayim Eno Roa B'simchasa. It's a double-edged sword. If you are Mis'avel, if you mourn for Yerushalayim, then you'll be Zocha to see it in its glory. You'll be Zocha to see the Beis HaMikdash B'mher B'Yameinu right now. But if you don't, then you won't. We experience right now, and it really explains everything going on, because it's very strange this day. On the one hand, it seems to be a Tanit Tzibor, because we fast not just in the morning, but not just in the daytime, but in the nighttime, a full 25-hour fast, very similar to Yom Kippur. And we add the 5 aniyim, just like Yom Kippur, not just eating and drinking, but also anointing, also relations, also leather shoes, also washing. So it seems to be very similar to Yom Kippur and the Tanit Tzibor. The Gemara in Tanya said that it wasn't just Yom Kippur, but anytime they made a public fast for rain, it was the same format. But yet there's no Ne'ilah, like you would have on a Tanit Tzibor. Not only is there no Ne'ilah, but there's no Slichos, like you'd have on any Tanis. And not only no Slichos, but there's no Tiskabo and the Kaddish, where we say, Hashem, please accept our Tfilos. And not only that, but there's no Avinu Malkeinu. And not only that, but there's no Tachnun. It's very strange. So what is it? So the Rav of Soloveitchik explains that really it's not a Tanit Tzibor. It's a day of Avelus. It's a day of mourning. And therefore, and really the operative theme is really the opposite. On a normal Tanis, the theme is tshuva. And Hashem will accept our tshuva. And Hashem's listening to us. Hashem always listens to us. And He listens to our tfilos. And He will hopefully accept when we have heartfelt feelings of tshuva. But we read last night in Eicha, Gam ki azak v'ashaveya, even when I cry out to Hashem, sasam tfilasi, He closed off my tefillah. Today is not a day of tefillah, certainly not the morning. The Kinnos are not tefillah. What are they? It's a day of bechi, it's a day of crying, it's a day of misbade, it's a day of mourning. These are really like eulogies. We're giving eulogies this morning. And therefore, the Avelus is actually very similar to the Avelus Lo Aleinu would happen for a loved one, except it's inverted. Whereas Avelus Chadasha, for someone who passed on recently, so the most strongest moment is the moment of death, it's the moment of Meso Mutal Lefanav, the mace is in front of them, and then followed by the Shiva, the Shloshim, the Yud Beis Chodesh, where gradually it gets less and less and less. So here it's the opposite. So we started off with like the Yud Beis Chodesh, the 3 weeks. And then the Shavuot Shechabel, the 9 days, are like the Shloshim, and Tisha B'Av is like the Shiva. And the morning of Tisha B'Av right now, the reason why we're sitting here, and we have no tefillah, we're almost like an onein. It's Meso Mutal Lefanav, the mace is literally right in front of us, and we're crying for the mace. Gam ki azak vashavea sasam tefilasi. And why is it sasam tefilasi, he closed my tefillah? That's the first kina that we say. Shabasuri meni shimuni achrai. The theme of the beginning of the kina is Sakota Mishkan Miskot Diburai, Sakota V'Glugi Burai. You spread out a Mishkan over the heaven to cover the temple. Normally, what is the essence of the Beis HaMikdash? What are we mourning? Why are we crying? We're not crying for a building. You could build beautiful buildings. You could make even more beautiful buildings. Maybe there are. But we're crying for, as Rabbi Stone said yesterday, that the essence of the Beis HaMikdash is that connection to Hashem, that conduit, the opposite of Satam Tfilasi, that we know there's somewhere that Hashem will always listen to our tfilos, and He'll always respond, because we have that Mikdash. And now it's like there's an iron curtain that is spread up over the heavens, and there's no Mikdash. Sachoto Mishkan Miskot Diburai. That's what we're mourning for, that we spread a canopy over the heavens. Hashem is concealing Himself, and it's Hester Panim. So that is really the essence of a lot of these kinnos, as we're going to say, that we no longer have this connection to Hashem. The Mikdash is not here. The Meso Muta Lefanav. We're mourning for the fact that we want to have this connection. We want to have this experience with the Shekhinah once again. And there's one other idea here. It's amazing that even in the first kina, there is a little bit of tachanunim, there's a little bit of chama, because the second line it says, Nafla Odenu B'Sor Zuchiyah, she has fallen to the depths of there, she remains. Eini Chichta L'Chazon Ben Brachia. And our eyes look out for the vision of Ben Brachia. What's that talking about? So that's a famous Gemara. It's the Gemara at the end of Makos. A very famous story. If you've never learned the Gemara, you still know the story. And the story goes that there were Rabbi Akiva and his chaverim, not his students, but the Rabbanim, all of the great Gedol Yisrael were going to Yerushalayim. Kivin she'igiu la'artzofim karu bigdeiam. When they got to Mount Scopus, they tore Kriya, because as we know, it's the first place, if you're walking from that direction, that you see the Makom HaMikdash. And they saw these were people who, most of them were probably alive during the Chorban. It was one generation after the Chorban. And they saw the Makom HaMikdash, and it was so apparent to them, this loss of the Shekhinah that was in front of them, this loss of this connection to Hashem. Ro Shual Sheyatu Mibeis Kodesh HaKadashim. Hiskilu Ein Bochim, they saw a fox going in the Kodesh Kadash, in the place, the Holy of Holies. And they started to cry. Rabbi Akiva Misachik, Rabbi Akiva smiled, he laughed. They said, Rabbi Akiva, you're crazy. Are you a lunatic? Why are you laughing? Why are you crying? The place that even any Zar, anyone who wasn't even the Kohen Gadol, and even the Kohen Gadol, if he wasn't properly prepared on Yom Kippur, he would die, because the Shechina was so profound. And now foxes walk. Animals, it's a home for animals. We shouldn't cry. Amar lahem l'chein ani mesachit diksiv aida li edim ne'amanim et Uriah HaKohen v'Zachariah ben Brachia. There's actually 3 different psukim we'll have to connect. Yeshayahu, the great Yeshayahu, he said, I have 2 witnesses. And who are my 2 witnesses? Uriah HaKohen and Zachariah ben Brachia. And who are these people? Uriah HaKohen was a great Navi who lived at the time of the first Beis HaMikdash. He was a contemporary of Yeshayahu. He was a contemporary of Micha. And Zechariah ben Brachia was a Navi who lived at the time of the Shivat Zion of the second Beis HaMikdash. He was a contemporary of Chagai and Malachi and Ezra and Nehemiah. What do these two people have to do with each other? The Gemara asks, Ma inyan Uriah, Eita Zechariah, Uriah Mikdash Rishon, Zechariah Mikdash Sheni, Uriah with the first Mikdash, Zechariah with the second, Ella Tala Akasu Nuaso Zechariah, Uriah. Rabbi Akiva said, the Nevuot are tied together. What did Uriah say? Uriah said, L'chem b'blachem Tzion b'sada ticharesh. Because of the Tzion is going to be plowed like a field, and no one's going to live there. And Zechariah says, many years later, Od Yashvu Zechenu Zechenu Perchovot Yerushalayim, there will once again be old people, old men and old women outside, sitting outside, happy in the streets of Yerushalayim. And Rabbi Akiva says, until this one was fulfilled, I didn't know this one would be fulfilled. And now I see the prophecy of Uriah fulfilled. So what's the idea here? What was Uriah saying? Uriah saying there'd be no life. And what's the greatest sign? When you go out to the mountains and you know you've really gotten to the place where no one is. When you see animals, and not just the animals that run like in West Orange and then they run away when you get near them. They just make their home there. They're not afraid of people anymore. That was what happened. That the animals made their home in the Beis HaMikdash, in the Kodesh Kodashim. Terrible nevuah. But that nevuah tied to another nevuah. What older people, Rabbi Soloveitchik explained, they tend not to play outside. Not really. They like to be in the house. It's the kids who play outside. When are they out? When it's so many people in the city that everyone's in the streets. So one tied to the other. That just like the prophecy of Uriah came true, that Yerushalayim is just a place for animals. There's no one there. So I know that Yerushalayim b'mehera b'yameinu will be so populated once again that it will be rebuilt. Eini chichta l'chazon ben brechia. The next kina eicha asta ba'pecha la'abi b'yadomim amunecha. How could you rush in your wrath to destroy us in the hands of Edom? V'lo zacharta bris ben absarim. You didn't remember the bris ben absarim, the covenant between the bris of Abraham Avinu, the famous bris that really set the stage for all the future brusos, all the future covenants between us and between Knesset Yisrael and HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Asher baratu l'vchonechu b'chem bitinu, who met your challenge, and there we say, B'chor Hashem me'ayalanu. And this keynote starts to develop a theme, which is the theme that's really very apparent in all of Kinnos, and really in all Yadus, the theme of the bris, of the covenant. The bris avos, the covenant Hashem made with the avos, with Avram, with Yitzchak, with Yaakov, and with the Knesset Yisrael after Yaakov. And there's actually two different ideas. There's Zechus avos and there's bris avos. There's the merit of the avos, and then there's the covenant with the avos. And the Rav explains, based on Yechezkel, the Navi Yechezkel said that the Zechus avos has ended. The covenant with the avos, the merit that Hashem gives us because of the avos stops. But the bris avos never ends. And why is this? So he explains, what's the idea of Zechus avos? If you have a beautiful friend, someone who's your best friend, and you love this person has done you favors, you feel an obligation to that person. And the person has a son, and the son looks like the father. You feel, and the son is also a good guy. You feel a connection to the son too. You actually sublimate the same idea from the father to the son. The Zechus avos. We had Avram, Hashem had a relationship, and Yitzchak was like Avram. The relationship continues. Now, when that person has a son, the relationship's a little less. And if that person has a son, and that son is not looking like the father, I don't mean literally, but in deeds, the person is no longer your friend, the person is your enemy. The Zechus avos, that good feeling that one had for the father, and then for the son, and then for the son, if the children don't continue in the path of the father, that can end. Bris is everlasting. You make a covenant and it goes on. So here it says, how could you not remember the bris ben absarim? How could you not remember all the covenant that we had afterwards? How could you not remember? When you made us freed from Mitzrayim and you made the Kvisas Aderech. In the fourth paragraph, you abandoned your sanctuary in the hands of Zarim. Once again, the bris, a new bris. We don't just have the bris ben Absarim, but we have the bris Sinai. that you remember the wedding vow, the chitun, like a chasana, that were engraved at Har Chorev, asher chachakta l'chamolecha, which were etched in the stone. We know that Har Sinai was a wedding between Knesset Yisrael and HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and the mountain Kafa Aleim Har Chigigis. He held at the mountain on top of us. It was the chuppah, and the luchos. The luchos were the kesef kiddushin. They were sapphire, kabnat livnat atzapir. They were beautiful stone. They were the kesef kiddushin. They were the ring. And Hashem never divorces us. He might kaviyachol seem like he's leaving us, but he's always going to come back. How could you not remember the Brit Sinai? Eka tarakta b'tarchacha b'titropi yatmein telekol zacharta yikayu didetyocha yichata yodecha. When we got the Torah, how beautiful it was. And so we say again and again, and this is the theme we're going to talk about, that you can't. How could you do this? How could you not remember all the bris, all the covenants that you've done? And one other point, and then I'll end on this. We asked Eicha, Eicha, Eicha. How could this be? And one might wonder, how could we say Eicha? How could we tell Hashem? The Melech Mamle HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Melachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the one who is the infinite master of everything. How could we ask him how or why is this happening? Us little puny people, what right do we have to question Hashem? So the only answer is, the reason we have this right is because we're copying the Navi Yirmiyahu. Yirmiyahu, who had a nevuah from Hashem, says, Eicha, 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 Eicha Yashva Badad. Yeshayahu said, Eicha Haisa Lazona. Moshe Rabbeinu even said, Eicha Asa Lavadi. And because of Moshe Rabbeinu, and because of Yeshayahu, and because of Yirmiyahu, we can follow in their lead. And even though we are so puny, and Hashem is so infinite, we have a right to ask, Next kina, Vayikonin Yirmiyahu al Yirmiyahu, Yirmiyahu al Yoshiyahu. Yirmiyahu to the Kinnos talks about Yoshiyahu Melech, Yoshiyahu, who was a great king who died tragically. The question becomes, why should we talk about Yoshiyahu? What difference does that make here? The Gemara says that the Misa of Tzadikim is as great as the Sreifas Beis Elokeinu. The Kula Misasim Shel Tzadikim ki Sreifas Beis Elokeinu. The burning of the Beis Hamikdash. The question becomes why. The simple, and the other, I think, the deep. The simple reason is it's a tragic. It's the death of a tzaddik, just like a. But there's something much deeper. It's a cause. We know we talked about already that the reason we're mourning, the reason why the Meisel is Muta Lefanav. The body is right in front of us. The Beis Hamikdash is burning in front of us. We're not mourning for a building. We're mourning for a relationship with Hashem become blocked. Had become almost like it was severed. I won't use that word severed because Hashem can always come. It always comes back. And who helps us more in our relationship with HaKadosh Baruch Hu than the Tzadikei Ador, than the great people in each generation? Who their job, as they recognize what makes them great, is not just that they're great for themselves, but that they're great because they help others. And Yoshiyahu was one of the greatest examples of this. He was so great that when he passed away, actually the fourth parak, the Kinnos work, the Eicha work, that the first two parakim of Eicha, Yirmiyahu is asking Eicha, how could this be? The third parak of Eicha is like a Tzidak Adin. It's Yirmiyahu's response. Tzadiku Hashem kipiu marisi, Hashem at the tzaddik. The fourth parak of Eicha, which starts with the words that we read last night, Eicha yuam zav, how the gold has become dim, yishana kesem atov, the most fine gold has changed, tishtafekna avnei kodesh v'rosh kol chutzot, the fine hallowed stones are poured out in the streets. The kina is the hesped, the eulogy. We talked about that really, all of Kinnos is the eulogy. The whole morning is one long eulogy. And that's the eulogy that was given for Yoshiyahu. So why Yoshiyahu? He was a king. He was a melech, great. And he's from Malchus Beis David. There were many kings who were from Malchus Beis David. And he was a tzaddik. So there weren't so many kings, but there were tzaddikim from Malchus Beis David. Yotam came before him, and Chizkiyahu came before him, and Asa came before him. What made Yoshiyahu unique? So the Kina goes back and forth about the story of Yoshiyahu. Eicha Eli konenu me'ela ben shmona shana heichel lidrosh belav. When he was 8 years old, he began to seek out Hashem. So you have to realize the context, and this is really the underlying reason why Yoshiyahu was so great and why his death was so equally tragic. Yoshiyahu's grandfather His great-grandfather was Chizkiyahu, who was a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful king. The famous nace that Sancherib's army was encamped around Yerushalayim, the great Sancherib from Ashur, who conquered the whole world. He conquered all of Yisrael and exiled them. He conquered all the cities of Yehuda and destroyed them. He had one city left. Yerushalayim was trapped like a canary inside a cage. That's actually what Sancherib wrote himself on the big thing he made, bragging about all his victories. He doesn't mention the next line, because he didn't want to put that on his bragging, that after the canary was trapped in the cage, the trappers all died. Miraculously overnight, they were destroyed. Chizkiyahu could have even been Mashiach, except he didn't sing Shira after this great miracle. Chizkiyahu had a son, Menashe, and Menashe was as evil as Chizkiyahu was great. And Menashe was a king for a very, very long time, for 55 years. And he brought in all the avodah zarah of Ashur. His idea was the way, if you can't beat Sancherib, you should join him. So he brought all the avodah zarah of Ashur into the Beis HaMikdash, got rid of all the Sifrei Torah. And after Menashe, there was a son of Menashe who was a king, I think, for only a year or two. And his grandson was Yoshiyahu. So Yoshiyahu's becoming king after 55, 56 years of no Torah in Eretz Yisrael. When I mean no Torah, I mean that when they cleaned out the Beis HaMikdash, when Yoshiyahu somehow found Hashem, which is miraculous because there was no way he could find him. They found something inside the Kodesh Kodashim and they said, "What is this?" They hadn't seen one before. It's a scroll. And they opened it. It was a Sefer Torah. They hadn't seen a Sefer Torah in all of Eretz Yisrael because Menashe had gotten rid of them. And they opened the Sefer Torah, and the Sefer Torah miraculously was opened to the Tochacha, and specifically the pasuk that says that the king and all of his people are going to go into Galus because of their evil. And Yoshiyahu immediately tore Kriya, and he made a massive tshuva movement, even as a young boy. And Yirmiyahu was his right-hand man. Yirmiyahu became a Navi when Yoshiyahu was the 13th year of his reign. So Yoshiyahu was at his height, and Yirmiyahu was his Navi, and they were going to change the world. No one had been like him, not from just the Malachim, from the time of Moshe Rabbeinu, because he brought all the Jews back. He brought all the Sifrei Torah back. What happened? What was the problem? So why aren't we celebrating? He should have brought Mashiach. He should have been Mashiach. He should have brought Mashiach. Davak bo avon leitani ador. The sin of the hypocrite, the leitzanim, the lates, the worst possible thing is to be a lates. A lates means someone who's a mocker. Because when you mock, you can destroy. The mockers, they mocked Yoshiyahu. Yoshiyahu is so full of so much high hopes. We're going to tear him down. Asher achar adelas kamu lisdor. After the Delas, they had the idolatry. So what's the story? The story was that Yoshiyahu had guards. He had officers who were commanded to go throughout all of Yehuda and all of Judea, and they would go to every house and they'd make sure that they did tshuva, and they checked that there were no idols in any house in all of Yehuda, and they would open the door and they'd see no idol, and they'd leave and they'd report back to Yoshiyahu, there are no idols. Everyone's following Hashem. But what they didn't know was that the people were hiding the idols inside the door. So when they opened the door, when they closed the door, the idol was there staring at them. And I think this is actually, if you think about it, it's all of us, not just those people. Because how many of us, that when the people come to see how frum we are, we're so frum. Outside we're so frum, and then when we close the door, and we're b'chedrei chadarim in our home, are we keeping the same values that we show to the world in the chadrei chadarim? Asher achar adelas kamu lisdor. So what happened to Yoshiyahu? So Tovim, Reim, Bita, Zachu, Amarav, Kinam, Dasla, Hakim, Bita, Amrata, Ba'ara, Shelo Yakim. They opened up the Sefer Torah to Ara, Shelo Yakim, as I talked about before. Tovim, Reim, Nikro, Kishachu, Malach, Mali, Valach, Ayom, L'Salach. So what happened? So the story goes that Paro Necho, who was the Paro at that time, he wanted to fight a war against Ashur, to finally get rid of Ashur, actually Ashur had fallen, and he wanted to fight a war really against Bavel, about Nebuchadnezzar, and then Nebuchadnezzar, the famous battle of Karkamish. You could look it up, it's one of the most famous battles of that entire time. And so Paro was going north to fight the battle of Karkamish, and they would decide who would be the leader of the Middle East once and for all, actually would have been in the best interest of the Jews that Paro had won, because then there would be no Nebuchadnezzar who would later destroy the Beis Hamikdash. And Paro tells Yoshiyahu, I just need to get through Eretz Yisrael, because the only highway to get from here to Karkemish is going right through Israel. This is our mazel that Hashem puts us in a place in the world that every conqueror needs to go right through us. That's what Hashem does for us. And so he says, I don't want to fight you. I love you. I have nothing to do with you. We're Re'im. We're Tovim. We're friends. I just want my army to get through you, because they can go through you. They can get up to Karkemish. They can fight against Bavel. Do you a favor. I'll destroy Bavel. There won't be a Bavel. You won't have to worry about them. But Yoshiyahu said, that says in the brachos, that says that v'nasati shalom ba'aretz v'cherev lo tavor ba'aretzechem. If you follow im b'chochotai teilechu, you follow Hashem's mitzvahs, I'll make peace in the world, and there won't be a sword. And Yoshiyahu was a Lamdan, he was a Talmid Chacham. He said, it already said I'll make peace. So cherev lo tavor ba'aretzechem cannot mean there'll be peace, because it already said there'll be peace. So what does it mean there won't be a sword? Afilu charvo shel shalom. There won't be any foreign swords, even a sword of peace, if we follow our chukim. And Yoshiyahu said, I know my people, I love my people. And they've done tshuva. I led them in the tshuva movement. I trust my people. If someone is a father and he loves his children, if someone's a rebbe, he loves his talmidim, and he only sees the good. I see my wonderful people. Cherev lo ta'avor b'artzachem. I have an obligation from the Torah to not allow Paro and Nechol to go through Eretz Yisrael, even a sword of peace. And Yirmiyahu tried to convince him otherwise. Yirmiyahu, the Navi, said, you love your people, but you don't know them so well. I know the fact that there really are some who aren't as good as you think they are. And Yoshiyahu didn't listen to the Navi, but think about it. Why didn't he listen to the Navi? Because he loved us too much. That was his only avera, that he loved the Knesset Yisrael so much that he defied Yirmiyahu. And so Paro went through, and Paro fought a war because he needed to get through. And what did it say? Odenu otem begevyo nechatim chetach achet morim lechatim. Arrow after arrow went into Yoshiyahu. This was Yoshiyahu, the height of his kingdom. He was, I believe, he was still in his 30s. Maybe he was 40 years old. He could have been king for how many more years? And the Beis Hamikdash would have existed. Kalum sasasu achorav ezo motza piu ve'ad mitzoy nefesh ma'asa v'fiu ruach sefasa v'ipsami piu. His mouth, in its last gasp, he realized Yoshiyahu what he had done wrong. He should have listened to the Navi. He didn't complain. He didn't say, my people let me down, because he knew that really it was them. All he said was, Sadik hu Hashem ki mirisu piu. Hashem is the Sadik, because I have rebelled against him. And Yoshiyahu v'yikonim alav kol eicha yuam zav, and that was the kina that Yirmiyahu wrote. How has the gold been dulled? B'moetam b'mikra echad kot Megiddo lishtot. This was in Megiddo. King Achab had been destroyed, and this was in Megiddo that he had been destroyed. B'moed shnat hashmita kaga hakel le'asos tala etzim ushtayim me'eros shatot ki sabtu lo eicha be'etzim ushtayim otiot. And what happened? Because Yoshiyahu was killed, and he was such a great tzaddik, and Yirmiyahu wrote a kina for him, 2 psukim. So he said that the Beis Hamikdash will last for 22 more years. And the Beis Hamikdash lasted for 22 more years after Yoshiyahu's death. But think about the fact, what would have happened? There are many in Jewish history. What would have happened if Yoshiyahu had listened to Yirmiyahu and he had remained king? The Beis Hamikdash maybe wouldn't have stood for 22 more years, maybe for 40 or more years, maybe forever. If Yoshiyahu would have been able to guide his sons, maybe when they became king, they would have been tzaddikim. And this is the tragedy of what could have been that we describe here by Yechonim Yirmiyahu al Yoshiyahu. Eicha v'yikon Yirmiyahu al Yoshiyahu. Talk about the Churban Bayis Sheni, the second Beis Hamikdash. Here from the Gemaras in Gittin that we describes Titus, the Tsar. Titus, who was the evil general, getting his great victory in the Beis Hamikdash. He considered it to be his crowning glory. Tremendous Chilo Hashem, as we described. We're sad for a building, but we're sad for a relationship. Titus did was he recognized the Beis Hamikdash represented. He waged a war on. And in his mind, because Hashem left Kaviyachol, Hashem was doing Hester Panim, he won. Zechor asher asa sar b'fnim, shalav charbo u'bal l'fnai b'fnim. He took out his sword, he went to the Kodesh Kodashim. Nachos enebiyes kitime lechem apanim. First he was mitame, the lechem apanim, the showbread. V'gider parochat ba'al shtei panim. And then he broke the parochas. Next thing, his sword, when he left the house, was full of dam. Hashem made a miracle. Pierced the parochas, when he pierced the beautiful curtain separating the Kodesh Kodashim from the Kodesh, he got blood on his sword. He said, I've killed Hashem. We know that when Nadav Avihu died tragically, Hashem was making a tremendous kiddush Hashem with those who were close, because people could see the Shekhinah, that the Shekhinah envelopes anyone who goes into the Kodesh Kodashim, even someone with so holy an idea as Nadav Avihu. And this man came and he took a zona into the Kodesh Kodashim, and a fire doesn't burn him up. Nashim kisharu kiba arit bekarka abayat nalach. Arit woman stared at the approaching tyrant. He was putting his boots on the floor, destroying the floor of the Beis Hamikdash with his army boots. Shava sotam v'yavo admon ganit v'kadneter. Now Rome is here. V'yisavev choma v'yaves hamon nafla evra al nit. They circled the walls. They frightened the masses. Al Pesach Harabayis Heichal Lavo. He went to the Pesach Harabayis. Biadabar Rashi Tabsar Lachrivo. He told his 4 big generals of his army, each of you are going to destroy one of the walls of the Temple Mount of Harabayis. Asad Maravi Lezecher Hisrid Bo Vasag Achar Kaslina V'lo Ravrivo. And then he had an idea, and this is where he was really, Baruch Hashem, he was wrong. We want to make a memory of the beautiful temple that I've destroyed in his gaiva. I want to leave one wall. So they left the Kosel Maravi. But we know, why did they leave the Kosel? Because the Kosel and the Ma'ariv was the closest to the Kodesh Kodashim. Kodesh Kodashim was in the west of the Harabayis. The western wall was right near there. And Hashem was sending us a message that even though the Shekhinah Kaviyachol was hiding, and we couldn't find it on the Harabayis, it would always be manifest in the Kosel. Hashem would never totally leave us. He left the wall at the remembrance of the greatness of Rome, but till this day we go to the Kosel to feel an inkling of the Shekhinah, of the beautiful presence of Hashem in the Beis Hashem. But it ends this Kina on a sad note with another story. Lama Ragshu Goyim V'loshat el Mincha Pinos. Why do the nations storm and we don't look at the Karban Mincha? V'shilchum le'eretz Utz b'shlosh sefinos. They sent away to the far land of Utz 3 ships. This is going to be the first of examples we're going to have later, similar examples. 3 ships of Jewish boys and girls were sent to the land of Utz, which is some faraway part of Rome. And where they're going to be used there, they're going to become slaves. And if they were beautiful young boys and girls, they knew they wouldn't just be slaves, but they would be brought to do horrible acts of zinus. And so they said, what should we do? We have no choice. We're being led on these ships. There's nothing we can do. We can't fight our captors. They have too many weapons. We can't overtake them. Heshivanu shivu kivo nidivchayam. They pleaded, bring us back, and they went into the sea. V'shitvu atum yakadim povayam. They joined together to cast themselves in the sea. This is a story that we know has been repeated itself many times in history. In the time later on in the Churban Bayis, in the time of the Crusades, into the time of the modern times, into the Holocaust. They chose death. They chose to take their own lives and flung themselves into the sea so they wouldn't be forced into Avodah Zarah and Gila Arayos Not only that, Shir v'tishbachu shoru kal yam ki halacha ragna b'tzulat yam. They sang Shira when they went into the sea. Just like we sing Shira at the Yam Suf. Because they were singing Shira that they could die as a Jew and not go to the horrible Nisayon, the test, and that they were winning the test and they were showing a Kiddush Hashem. Kisa almost bo ad nafsham kol zot basnu v'lo shekachnu chilu mirishon. All this has come to us. We have not forgotten you. Tikvasam natnu l'mashim mibasham. They had a tikva because it says in the Navi that they will even come back from Bashan. So they said, we're going to fling ourselves into the sea and we're going to die. But b'yemot Mashiach, there's going to be tchias amesim even for people who don't even have graves. Even for people who are flung into the sea. Ubaskol nishma ura lamatishan. And the Baskol said, yes, awaken. Why do you sleep? Even these beautiful Jewish girls and boys who committed the ultimate sacrifice, they too will come back. Zechor asher asa.
The challenge of everything to feel the Chorban, to feel Shul Chorban Abayas. Years ago we never experienced. We understand is that the Gemara tells us that Kol HaRa'is, everything the negative that happened, that's merachek, us away from the Rebbeinu Shalom, in the Chorban Abayas. Leo heard the woman crying, death of a child, and he cried with her over the Chorban Abayas. It's just another step, and it's all based on the richuk, on the distance that happened when we lost this relationship. Each year is a new Avelis. Each year is a new Hesped, as was said. Each year is a new trying to understand what it is, but it's a year further. It's a year more of Hesped. In particular, Kinnos. While reading the words of what the Rasha did, what the Rishoyim did, what they did to the bias, you want to be able to relate to the Churban Abayas, to relate to the Avemus, to the mourning on Tisha B'Av, how it relates to us. You just need to look around at what has happened in the world in the last that we have what to be misabel on. What kind of world do we live in? We live in a world where things that 10 years ago things would have been considered to be absurd, not just absurd, but degrading, defiling, the whole kavod ha'adam, the whole sense of self-respect that people have is destroyed. 10 years ago, if a person pronounced that they acted in a certain way or did certain things, they would be ostracized. Now we're asked in the past year to worship them. 50 people get killed, and all of a sudden what's a te'eva becomes in the world now something for us to we're asked to praise it, we're asked to honor it, we're asked to look at it as some type of positive. It's a good thing. Hashchosa, right? The destruction of a human being on a moral level, right? What an Adam is supposed to be. Each year it gets worse and worse. This past year again, what we have seen in the past year, what the world has become, what becomes normal now, and what we're expected to live amongst, right? You're expected to be a yid with Torah values, with the morality of the Torah, and the world, and we have seen it in the last 6 months. It's striking. It's striking. Every single letter that gets added from the alphabet, right, is another change in the world, where the entire world, what we have to live amongst, the world that we find ourselves in, moves further away, moves away from the Rebbeinu Shalom, and pushes us more towards Hashchasa. And how are we supposed to live with that? How are we supposed to live amongst that? Every single day that you wake up and you go into the world, it is a more challenging place than it was before, the day before. The Torah and mitzvahs, what you believe in, the way that you're supposed to live, is assaulted even more. The morals of society, right? What the world is saying has become even further away from the Rebbeinu Shalom, and the expectation, it's pressure. The pressure of the world to not be a Shomer Torah mitzvahs. The pressure of the world to be immoral. The pressure of the world to somehow accept what's mamish immoral. Keneged Torah, completely Keneged Torah, to accept that as normal. Every single day, it becomes more and more normal. Every single day, the pressure becomes greater. Every single day, the assault is greater and greater on our ability to maintain our Yiras Shamayim, because we live in the midst of a ship that is sinking deeper and deeper by the minute. A Russia can come into the base of Mikdash and stick a sword through the Parechas. It's unbelievable. They could be Baal Azena in the Kodesh Kadashim. It's unbelievable. But it's just as unbelievable that the world can expect us to accept To'eva and to rejoice and to celebrate it, and to put us in a position where if we say anything that we disagree with it and say it's immoral, we're the Rishayim. The Russia didn't die from what he did in the Heichal, and the Menafit, right? The Znus and the To'eva and the Richok, all of that is celebrated. That's what's winning the game. That's what's winning the battle. And that's what becomes normal. When you read this Kinnos, if you want to relate to Tisha B'Av, and you want to relate to the Avelos, it's not as much, it's as much what happened then, where Ra, where evil, where immorality came, did what it did, and was celebrated. It's just as much that today. And even more so. And the more that we go, every year we go further, the worse it becomes. If you want to be misabel, that's what in this kinna, to be misabel, to think about not just what happened 2,000 years ago, but what it's like every day when you read the paper. And what it's like every day when you go out there and people look at you and think that you are crazy, and the pressure is on to give up and to agree that there's something right, something normal to all of this evil, to all of this wrong.
Describe here, V'atar Marta, Hashem promised us. We talked a lot about the bris, and we talk about that a lot over and over again. The promise will do good to us, and we'd be different. Why have these horrible people done the Chilul Hashem? There's so much Chilul Hashem in the world. Then and today, continuously, of all the horrible things, Lo Shafakta lands not doing His anger to us. So why are you doing this? Why you made so many promises? Seems kaviyachol like you're not keeping them. You raised us. Kasher yisa omen at yonek, like Moshe Rabbeinu described, like a nursemaid nursing the baby. V'lama dodanim sichim lashanek, v'aryeh b'nei gerosa b'chanek. But now it's like we're suffocating for thirst. You made honey come from rocks. You made the water come from, the famous Nisim in the Midbar, where Moshe Rabbeinu brought the water from the rock 2 different times. The Be'er Miriam that went throughout the Midbar. Now their judges slip upon rocks, their babes are smashed. You know this from that time, and unfortunately in the Holocaust, the Goyim, Yimak Shemam, they would smash the babies. Somehow they get joy out of killing babies. But, and we ask over and over again, how could this happen? You made so many promises. And it seems like, but then at the end, we do Tziduk Adin, just like in Eicha, the first 2 parakim are Eicha, 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 and the 3rd parak of Eicha, of the Eicha, is the Tziduk Adin, is the acceptance of Hashem's, that He is giving judgment. We say at the end, Ata Tzadik al Kol Haba, you Hashem are right, you're the Tzadik, you're the one in the right. L'cha Hashem Asdaka v'nistika v'chiba, you are the one who is the right, who loves us. V'lama naginu v'lanu adiba. Why do we complain? It's from us. Kikozot basna b'chova. We talk about the world and how it's going into such a horrible place, but somehow, not the fault of the world. They're doing this horrible stuff. They're saying these horrible things, that they're allowing things that were never allowed. The fault is in us, that we are not bringing back every generation that doesn't build the base of Mikdash, or really, I don't think it's a difference. It is that we caused of the base of Mikdash. Lama nehinu v'lanu abiva ki kozos basnu. V'ata amarta itevi tivima. V'iflinu anivama. It's Isaiah Lebanon. The cedars of Lebanon. Who are our cedars? Who are our strong stalwarts? Obviously our Gedolim. Adir Torah, masters of Torah. Balei Tritzim in Mishnah Gemara, the ones who are the shield bearers in the Mishnah Gemara, they fight the Milchamta Shel Torah, the war of Torah. This Kina, as we know, we said before, Shkula Misatam Shel Sadikim Kisreifas Beis Elokeinu, the Misa of our great ones, they died tragically. It's an equal loss to the burning of the Beis Hamikdash, to the Churban. It is a Churban. So this describes the 10 Asara Ruge Malchus who were tragically killed Al Kiddush Hashem by the Romans in 2 generations. Also, we talk about it on Yom Kippur as well. And it describes in the beginning, Zos Bezachri Yado Gogoro Mirishon Lecher Berura. So originally there were going to be 2 who were going to die. There was Rav Shimon ben Gamliel and Rabbi Yishmael Kohen Gadol. Rav Shimon ben Gamliel was the Nasi. He represented the Malchus. Rabbi Yishmael, who Kohen Gadol, who was the Kahuna. And they cast lots who should die first. They knew that they were going to be killed. In full Gora, Rav Shimon Pasha Tavaro Bacha Kinigzera Gezera. They turned to Rav Shimon. Rabbi Shimon Chazar Egmon Lahargo Benefet Nitzura. Mizeder Aaron Chalba Vakad Libkota Ben Agvira. Nato et Roshu Ben Hasanu Ba'al Akavosa Menorah Torah. Sam Einav Al Einav Ufiv Al Fiba Ava Gemura. They placed their eyes together. Anav Amar Peh Miskaber B'Torah. This peh that was Miskaber in Torah. Pisum Niknasa Alav Misa Meshuna B'Chamura. He's going to have such a horrible Misa. Rabbi Shmuel, it described, was very beautiful, and the daughter of the Caesar, Yamak Shmuel, didn't want him to die. They came up with an evil compromise. They said they're going to take off his skin and they'll stuff him. You'll be able to look at him every day. So they flayed off his skin alive, so that this daughter can have her demented, horrible monument. Siva lahapshit et rosho amelach besara skakira. They ordered to flay his skin with a sharpened razor. Kiyam ba'oro. Amru l'nafshik sichiv and avora. He was fulfilled with the skin to say and get down and walk. Rasha poshet eis higia limkom tefillin. When they got to the place of tefillin, Rabbi Shmuel wore tefillin all day. He was a tzaddik. He didn't just wear tefillin chakras. He wore tefillin every waking moment of the daytime when he could. When they got up to the makom of the tefillin, Shima sa'akum nidazeh ola ve'eret tzar. The scream was so great that the world shook. It was like an earthquake. It described the death of others as well. We know Rabbi Akiva, Me'achar Reviot, Rabbi Akiva, Oker Harim Mitokal Duba Zuba Svar. Rabbi Akiva was known as the Oker Harim, the great one who could do svaros, who could do analysis, who could do lumdus, greater than everyone else, who mamish put the mountains together against each other, and they combed his flesh out with alive when he was in a big theater. And Rabbi Akiva, we know, laughed. And the students said, "Why are you laughing?" He said, Rabbi Akiva always laughed. He said, because my whole life I say, "V'ahavta et Hashem Elokecha b'chol levavcha, b'chol nafshecha, b'chol me'odecha." You love Hashem with all your heart, with all your money. B'chol nafshecha, with all your life. Filu ata notu at nafshecha, even if they'll take your life. And I said, when am I ever going to be able to fulfill this mitzvah? And now I'm getting the chance. At his moment of death, all he could think of was being mamlich Hashem and loving Hashem. And at the Natza Yashba, he said Hashem Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad Nata Yatra Be'echad Ubasko Amra Rabbi Akiva Ashrecha Gufecha Tahor B'chol Minei Tahara. Then we talk about the others, Hanania ben Atradion, who always learned with the Sefer Torah, so they wrapped him up in the Torah, and the Torah burned, and they said, what are you seeing? And he says, I see the words of Hashem going up to the Shamayim. And Rabbi Chanina ben Chakinai, Rabbi Chutzpit Targumim, all these great people who died in horrible deaths. But we say at the end that Hashem should yimlok tzedek, v'shalmu yemei avelek la'ora nisa v'neilach, that these tzaddikim who died should be a chapara for all of us. Arzei Shmuel Kohen Gadol, when it came time for his children, they were sold into slavery. It describes how one day, Eish nishbu v'niflu shnei adonim, ve'im shchenim zelu modzechonim. These two sons, a son and a daughter of Shmuel, they were enslaved to two masters in Rome who were next door neighbors. V'yisapru zeh lezeh inyanim zeh amar mishivya tziyonim shavisi shivcha levush hashanim kalvana v'gziv v'klater panim. I have such a beautiful Jewish girl I got. What a deal. Ubestoar kikita v'yamima. She's beautiful like, I don't know what these are, maybe the stars. I mourn from year to year for this. And then the other one, the next door neighbor said, oh, my boy that I got, slave, is doubly handsome. Such a handsome boy, he's like the sun, like the moon in his fullness. They say, we'll make a deal. We'll put them together. We'll make a shidduch. They'll have children. Their children will be beautiful like the stars. The most beautiful slaves ever. So they agree. They make a deal. That night they put them in a room. It's all dark. And the masters are outside waiting. They're so excited. And this beautiful Jewish girl and boy. I am a descendant of Aaron HaKohen. I can't marry a shivka, a slave, a lowly slave. Who knows what type of horrible, disgusting, immoral person this is. I'm a daughter of Yocheved. I'm going to marry a slave boy. And they cry in their corners. They don't get together, obviously. And they cry all night. Or Boker Zeh Hikiro. The morning comes and they can see Hoyachiv Hoyachosik Viru. V'nischabku yacha v'nischabru, and they embrace together. Ad yata nishmata b'neshima. They die. That's Gedolah Yisrael, like Aaron died b'neshima with a kiss of it. Moshe Rabbeinu died b'neshima. Their nefesh goes, their last breath b'neshima. Aymi miyami yamima. Lozot Yekonin Yirmiyahu B'Shia Gezerah Zu Tamid Ani B'Chia. This was the king of Yirmiyahu. Ubavi Yekad Yikod Kavia Albenu Bas Misbeit Rav Amima, on a son and a daughter. We mourn every day, every year we tell the story. The beautiful son and daughter who were tragically killed. Navi Chatasi Yasmima. Cornose like written by Spire. The way it worked was against the infidel. They were going to go to the Holy Land back from them. And on the way they realized, sent the infidels in our backyard. The Jews too. So on the way they went from Germany. See, this all happened during the time, which is a lot of the reason why in a lot of Ashkenazic, the first half from Rosh Chodesh Iyar until see the city. And it describes how in each city the Jews were faced with the ultimate test. I talked about this earlier, that they were given the test: should you convert or should you be Jews and die? And not only that, but they chose in this example a lot of the Ashkenazi community that they knew they were coming, and they thought we're going to not be able to withstand the torture. Actually chose as a city, only time we have this in history, that as an entire city to commit suicide so that they won't be forced to bow down to the Galach, to become something, to do Avodah Zarah. The first time ever that this happened, and the whole city after city. It describes the specific communities that were affected, Magens, and the other, and later on, the others as well. The question is, why are we talking about this on Tisha B'Av? I already mentioned that this happened during the time of Sfiras Omer, and actually a lot of the reason for the stronger Minhagei Avelos in Ashkenazi communities might stem from this. So why are we having Avelos now on this? And so he answers, Shimona alavavcha misped marla kashran. Take to heart and compose a eulogy. Kishagula harigasam lis ava lis afra kisreifas beis elokeinu olam abira. What we've mentioned a lot of times, that the murder of these great tzaddikim, of these great kedoshim, is equal to the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash. Gula misasam shel tzaddikim kisreifas beis elokeinu. I've said that many times. You're not allowed to add a day. A moed, a time, a set time. This day, Tisha B'Av, is the day that we should remember it. And we're going to have a hard heart from the morning till the night. on the house of Israel that fell to the sword. So we learn a tremendous lesson from this. It's a lesson that's the reason why later on we're going to say some Kinnos that were composed in this past generation about the Holocaust. That this is the day for all eternity to mourn the horrible suffering that has happened. There's a famous, I believe it's true, I think there might even be on a video, that Menachem Begin in the 1970s was interviewed. And he said that really the day for the Holocaust Remembrance Day, the real Holocaust Remembrance, was the day we remember all these horrible tragedies. As we're doing here as well, in this case, the horrible tragedy of these communities that all died from Cologne, and from Frankfurt, and from Worms, and from mines during the Crusades. Miyitain Roshi Yerushalayim. There was another. I have a fire when I mentioned Rabbi Manas Yerushalayim Adir Shemoshe Shilo Yina Shrayim. We had Ajyashe, we had Yirmiyahu, Vana Nehi Nehima. But now we have Kim Yerushalayim. Tovu Alim Al Zeva. Tovu Alim La'arba Degalim. We had the Miyamatovu Alach Yaakov. The beautiful tent of Yaakov. We had the Degalim into Israel with the flags of the Mitzrayim. Oli Yishmaelim Makonat Arelim. But then we have the tent thirsty and we were hungry and they gave us salty, gave us flasks that we thought had water in it. Drink the water, it was empty. And then it ends at the very end and it goes back and forth. Torah, Shulchan, the Menorah, Bakalo, Torah, Pesach, Mitzrayim. We had the Shulchan, we had the Menorah, we had the Torah, we had everything. We left Mitzrayim. We did we built the Mishkan. Elu, Besoevo, Peso, Maseva. There were all these idols when we left Yerushalayim. That's why we were born to Galus. Torah to Udo, Klekemda. We had the Torah and the messages of the beautiful, what the most, Mahmadimi Padim Izav Rav. We're talking about the Torah that the most we left Mitzrayim. And then we end with a little bit of a happy note at the end. Sasum v'simcha v'nasyago v'nanacha. We want happiness and joy. Will be the sorrow and the sighing. Bishuvi Yerushalayim, when we go back. Bimher b'yameinu. Eishtu kad v'kirbi v'alo salibi. It was Daran, the base of Mikdash. Blood. Kita adama adbo chereb monai v'lo shakat adei hukam v'ulai v'yareb v'bat yuda taniya v'aniya. He saw that there was blood that was boiling over the base of Mikdash, and whatever he did, the blood wasn't silenced. What was this blood? It was from Zechariah, not Zechariah that we talked about earlier, but there was an earlier Zechariah. Zechariah, the Kohen, who was the son of Yehoyada, was the adopted brother of Yoash. Yoash was adopted by Yehoyada, the Kohen Gadol. He became the king. He descended of Malchut Yehudah to survive. Became the king, and as long as Yehoyada, Kohen Gadol, was alive, Yoash was really great. When Yehoyada died, that he was more than great. It's almost like an idol. He had literally been raised in the base of Mikdash, in the Kodesh Kedashim. And so then Zechariah, his adopted brother, was a Navi, came and tried to get Yoash to turn his ways, and Yoash had Zechariah killed in the base of Mikdash, and the blood continued to boil for hundreds of years. So the Daran comes in, he sees the blood. He said, what should I do? And they said, it's the blood of animals. And so he slaughtered animals. He said, that doesn't look like this blood. It's not the blood of animals. And the blood wouldn't silence. So he started to kill people. He stabbed hundreds, men by the hundreds, youth by the tens of thousands. He massacred Kohanim. The blood didn't stop. The blood didn't stop. He killed women nursing with their children. The blood didn't stop. And finally he goes, is there not enough blood? Finally the blood stopped. What was this? This was the famous quote, Im taregna b'mikdash kohen v'navi. Because they killed in the Beit HaMikdash the Kohen who was also the Navi, Zechariah, and that's why his blood boiled from that crime hundreds of years and caused this horrible massacre at the hands of the Nuzdaran. Yom Akvi described, it was written by he's such a lover of Tzion, tied together. Shalom Asirayik, you inquire to Dorish, Shalom Mekve, and Yetzer Derayach. And the story, just I'll end with Rabbi Yehuda Levi, is that Rabbi Yehuda Levi himself was living very comfortably in Spain at a time when the Jews were treated well and he was very respected. But he had a love for Tzion, so he decided he was going to make Aliyah. And he traveled. It was very hard back then. You traveled by boat, you traveled by land. The last word we have a letter from him from Damascus on his way. He all got all the way to Syria on his way to Zion. And the legend is that he got to Eretz Yisrael and he got to the Koso Marabi, which we described before, the last remnant of the. He kneeled down at the Koso and then in Arab Zion, and we're going to have a whole group of other Zion talking about the beauty of Eretz Yisrael. Zion, hello, Tisha.